everyone, Amanda here from scrimpingmummy.co.uk, and today I'm doing a bit of an information video about measurements. Now lots of you may well know your measurements, not have a problem and find it really easy. I'm doing this video specifically because I have had a few of my customers express their frustration at not understanding measurements. They don't get it, it just doesn't click, and because they can't understand measurements, as some demonstrators do centimetres, some do inches, and some ladies just don't understand the concept of the division of an inch into 16/8, quarters, halves, etc. And so they're getting frustrated, and basically because they're cutting the papers wrong because they don't understand, they're getting frustrated and they feel like packing it in, and I don't want anybody to feel frustrated, so I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. And please, if anybody doesn't understand and is getting frustrated, feel free to message me or email me at amandacharles08@gmail.com, and I will do my utmost to make sure that you have a successful outcome with your measuring. You know, I am here to help. Please do reach out if you do struggle. You can contact me on Facebook, you can leave me a message, you can comment underneath here, you know, and I will help wherever I can. Just bear in mind, I'm a bit thick myself when it comes to maths. So I've had to teach myself this, and I've had to do it and just drum it into my head. So hopefully I won't make a mess of this video. Right, so Stampin' Up tools, we have the Simply Scored and we have the stamping trimmer. The Simply Scored comes in inches if you're ordering in the UK. It comes in inches and it goes up to 12 inch, and each inch is broken down into eighths. Okay, now if you prefer centimetres and you just don't get inches, I think it depends which time of you know, which year you were born in. Some of us in the UK were taught in inches, some were taught in centimetres, and I think that is it's the education systems let us down. If you can only work in centimetres, you can buy an adapter, an adaptation kind of plate for this, which will be work in centimetres. And so basically it slots on here, and the you know, and it's got different grooves, and they're in centimetres, and there is another ruler at the top there, and it will give you all of the centimetre measurements. So it might be handy even to have both, and then if you see a tutorial that's in centimetres, you can whip that plate out and you can just follow it without thinking about it. Okay, it's just an option. It's there in the catalogue on page 208. Now our trimmer has a little bit more detail. Okay, and our trimmer has inches, but it also has centimetres. So if you are somebody that prefers centimetres, use the stamping trimmer, use it for both your cutting and your scoring. The centimetres are these top measurements here, okay, and the bottom measurements are inches. So centimetres, each centimetre is broken up into millimetres, and we have 10 millimetres in a centimetre. So if somebody says 1.8, what they mean is 1 centimetre and 8 millimetres. So you'll go to 1 there and then you count on 8. Okay, that is the bare basics of it. Okay, so you've got 10 millimetres in a centimetre. Now when we go to inches, it gets a little bit more complicated for some people, because that's where we start to go into harder fractions. And if you didn't do fractions at school and you didn't pay attention to the maths teacher at the front of the class, somewhat like me, then it can be difficult to get your head round. But each inch is divided into 16 parts. So think of it as a cake. This is how they teach our kiddies at school. You've got a cake, and that is divided into 16 pieces. Okay, now to make those pieces slightly easier to eat, rather than eating 16 pieces, if you wanted 4 pieces, there's easier ways of doing it. So what we do is each inch is 60, breaks into 16ths, but it also goes to eighths and quarters, and we also have a half. We have a 3/4 of an inch, and that is where ladies, I believe, and maybe gents as well, do get confused. So I'm just going to do a quick drawing to explain it to you. So this is 0 and this is 1 inch. Okay, so between that inch there we have half. Okay, and in between each half that breaks down into quarters. Okay, so that would be a quarter as well, but we don't say, I'm not going to put a quarter because that's 1/4. Now a half is equal to 2/4, but we don't say 2/4, we say a half. Okay, so then up here that would be 1, 2, 3. That would be the same as 3/4. Okay, and we do say 3/4, and this is why people get confused because it is confusing. Now in between each quarter, the smaller measurement is 8ths, so we have 1/8 there. Now that is kind of 2/8, but we don't say 2/8, we say a quarter, but it is the same, okay, because we're going up. But then when we get here and we get to the next 1/8, then that is 3/8. But then when we get to here, we don't say 4/8, we say a half. Okay, so this is why it's confusing for people when we start going into 8ths. All right, and then here's another 1/8. Okay, and that is 5/8. Okay, so we don't say 4, but we do say 5, because instead of saying 4/8, we'd say a half, but that is equivalent to 4/8. Okay, are you still with me? And that is 6/8, but we don't say 6/8. We don't say that, we say 3/4. But here we've got another 1/8, and that is 7/8 of an inch, and we do say 7/8. Okay, so it's just when you get to here, which is the equivalent of 2/8, we don't say 2/8, we say a quarter. And the same as here, we don't say 4/8, we say a half. And when we get to 6/8 here, we don't say that, we say 3/4. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused. Now in between each of these 8s, we do have 16ths as well. Okay, now not many people use that 16th of an inch, but there are 16 16ths in 1 inch. Okay, so I hope that does explain it a little bit better. But again, please do not think that it is you that it, has some kind of problem. It can be mind-blowing. Something as it's very, very simple to a lot of people, but to some people it's just tricky. But what I would say is get some scrap card and practice, cut one of each of these layers and practice. Draw yourself a diagram. I've got it here on my glass mat. There are posts on Pinterest that give you all of the measurements. So when I'm making a card, I go down in quarter of an inch increment. So my next card would be quarter of an inch smaller and quarter of an inch smaller, and that's quarter of an inch smaller on that length and on that length. Now if you go on Pinterest, there are umpteen posts where you can get yourself the matting and layering charts, so all of the measurements are written down for you so that there's no mistaking. Okay, now I hope that I haven't confused you even further. I was not put on this earth to be a maths teacher. I actually have a degree in history, in British history and women's studies, believe it or not. And here I am doing paper crafting for a living. But there you go. Do not get frustrated. Do not give up. There are conversion charts on Google. Like I say, if you don't understand the difference between centimetres and inches, but we have 2.5 centimetres is the same as 1 inch. Also, don't forget, I am here to help. The biggest part of being, on here, on YouTube, is that as much as you guys all support me, I'm here to support you. So if you need anything, please do get in touch and I will do my best to help. I hope that does help those ladies who have contacted me about getting frustrated with their measurements. And I will leave everything over on my blog, and I'll see you again soon. Go and have some fun, go out and practice and learn your measurements. Bye for now.